A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Ketramose, the New Dawn, versus Omnath, Oloro, and Gwendlyn. One lander, yeah, that's no good. We mulligan into multiple lands and we can start the game off with Leyline of the Void, so the sooner we get down our commander, the sooner we can refill our hand. How many of our opponent's cards go into the bin on our turn though, which is what we care about with this commander. Yeah, I think this is fine to keep still. And we just so happen to be starting the game off as well. There is another means of card draw for us, that's a good draw. Yeah, go for Myriad Landscape. I have to be careful with the Isolated Chapel, that will come in tapped as well, so it'd be good to get down the Senu as soon as possible, so probably just have to curve out with the bird into our commander, hopefully draw a swamp or a plains in the meantime. Sensei's Divining Top on turn 1 for the Esper player, and an Uvenwild Tracker for the mono green player. Okay, there we are, a plains, I'll drop that so I don't accidentally play a tapped Isolated Chapel later, and we will go for Senu, or however you say his name. Uvenwild Tracker swings at Oloro, who is at 44 life already. Spins Sensei's Top in response. A Solitude, that'll be good for a Flicker-Wisp. Let's get down our commander, I think. Does not get countered by the Gwendlyn. So, Flying and Vigilance, we might as well go for this. Let's just go straight down the middle. Try and keep Oloro's life total down a little bit. And I don't think we particularly care about... the draws we're making are okay. I don't think we particularly care about exiling this and getting a card draw, so I'll just leave it for now until we can actually bring it back in quite quickly by swinging in with our Ketramose. If Gwendlyn has something to do at the end of the turn here, it is going to get exiled. Does not do anything though. Apparently we're looking at a Nazgul deck, so we'll draw and discard. So Gwendlyn tempted by the ring, and a Nazgul becomes the ring bearer, puts a plus counter on itself. Oloro passing through his turn again. Omnath into play on turn 3. And Oloro is holding up priority, so might have some means of counter magic. Not seeing too many cards go into exile yet. And I forgot to turn this into an Ancient Tomb. So we're playing the Lord of the Rings version apparently. I don't like the alternate artworks like this. But that could let us go Myriad Landscape, but then we're still not really doing anything. It accelerates us into Solitude, which I don't think really matters unless we're desperate to get rid of that Omnath. Which could be an idea, I suppose. Yeah, let's go for that. It draws us a card as well. Does have flash, so we could do it on an opponent's turn, but we want to exile things on our own turn. Oloro shouldn't interfere here. So Solitude comes down. It is a Swords to Plowshares onto the Omnath, which triggers Ketramose, and will lose us a life and draw us a card. And then we see another land, hopefully see something different next turn. I'll again go down the middle. Maybe I will just exile this and scry 2, gain 2. Yeah, kind of get to look at more cards and actually try to get into some more relevant stuff. Ironically, Blackblade Reforged would have been good on the flyer. Swiftfoot Boots I don't mind. Inspiring Overseer probably good to keep hold of as well. So we'll put both of these on top. Inspiring Overseer, then the Swiftfoot. Yeah, that means next turn we can probably go Swiftfoot Boots equip and Flicker-Wisp onto the Solitude maybe. No red mana for the Grixis player yet, but there is a Hostage Taker which ironically has exile. So probably getting rid of our Ketramose. And yep, there it goes. So now what we could do is risk Solitude staying in play, which I think I might actually do. So we'll leave the Ketramose as hostage to the pirate here. And if we don't manage to hold on to our Solitude, then our commander's stuck under the pirate. It still comes back to a board wipe or something at least, so it's not too risky. But if the gamble pays off, it could save us a lot of mana. Now the 2-3 going in at Oloro as well. Oloro plays a Cryptghast and has 3 swamps in play, so that accelerates the mana ahead. Not as likely we're going to lose Solitude to a mono green player. Oracle of Muldiah allows additional land drops. 5 cards in hand, played a Shifting Woodland this turn, which won't be of too much use to him if he doesn't have a graveyard. Tooth and Nail is on top. He had a fetch available anyway, so decides to shuffle the Tooth and Nail away. And now puts on top a Beastmaster Ascension. So it might be that he's going for landfall, get a bunch of tokens into play and overrun them with that. Can't abuse his fetches at least with something like Crucible of Worlds. So we know that we're drawing into Swiftfoot Boots. Let's go for the Flicker Wisp right now. Suppose I could have swung in with the Solitude first, although we don't have great attacks anyway. Probably wouldn't have blocked with Crypt Gas, but you never know. Probably wouldn't have swung in. So we flicker the Solitude, that will come in at the end step, which means instead of Swiftfoot Boots we could go for the Callous Blood Mage now to draw, get a card deeper into our library. So when that enters we will draw a card and lose a life. And we know what's on top of our library because we just looked at the cards with the bird. So Inspiring Overseer, a good flicker target, gains us incremental life and card draw. Now we'll have a decent number of bodies on the board, including a flyer for the Blackblade Reforged if we like. So the Flicker Wisp triggers at the end of the turn, Solitude comes in, gives us back our commander and exiles the hostage taker. For all the talk with Ketramose, I didn't see many people talking about Solitude. This is a really, really good one to include. Another card being added to exile in the form of Polluted Delta. We're 4 away from being able to attack and block with our Ketramose. Another Nazgul into play. So they're going to be able to start looting, I think. Yeah, whenever your Ring Bearer attacks, you loot, which means it's more stuff into exile. And does decide to swing at Oloro with a now 4/5 Death Toucher. So discards a Catalogue, draw 2, discard, and tap down Dimir mana there during the attack phase. I'm not sure if he has ninjutsu or something like that. Anyway, Oloro allowing the damage through, going below his starting life total, and now tapping down double black for a Golem Patient Plotter. So just trying to max up the ring as best he can. And this is just sack a creature, return it from graveyard to hand. Well, that won't be of much use to our opponent. Managed to play another swamp, so has even more mana. Boom Reflection doubles up the amount of life he gains, and does decide to pay into the extort cost, so he goes up to 42 before the Boom Reflection hits. And has a mana floating here. He could use it to spin the top, but he's past priority, so doesn't make use of that. There is an Ant Queen on top for our opponent, and another token maker in the form of Garruk Wildspeaker. So I expect we'll see something like Gaia's Cradle at some point. Manages to untap 2 lands by ticking up the Garruk. So just leaving up the 3 mana and 4 cards in hand might be able to fight something with the tracker. A Claim Jumper for us, so I think we're actually doing alright on lands. No one's really creeping ahead that quickly. I think I mentioned equipping this to the Flicker Wisp before. I'm forgetting that it is a legendary clause, so 7 to equip isn't all that great. Probably best hold on to the Reforged at the moment. Let's see what we can draw from the Overseer. Alright, that's a failure. So Swiftfoot Boots onto Ketramose would be ideal. Might be that we have to go for a Gonjo if a fight card goes over towards us and we want to keep the creature. Might go on Flicker Wisp if we attack the Garruk, but yeah, we'll see what happens here. I think I'm going to take Solitude down the middle. It gains us a bit of life, and if he blocks with Crypt Gas, then it's not the end of the world. He loses a bunch of life at least, or a bunch of mana. So Flicker Wisp in at Garruk, and the Lifelinker down the middle. Looks as though everything is being allowed to get through. So we go back up to 35, knock Garruk down to 1. Oh, it has to be attacking or blocking, doesn't it? I forgot about that, so yeah, we can just plain equip the boots then, I think. And that frees us up to grab a Surveil Land with the Verdant Catacombs, so we'll make them worry about a Swords or a Path, and pass the turn at that. And this way we've got haste for the failure next turn as well. If we want to flicker Solitude again, or draw even more with Blood Mage or the Overseer. I can't believe we've reached turn 6 and there aren't that many cards in exile yet, to be honest, with Leyline of the Void in play on turn 0. Dimir's Signet for the Lord of the Rings deck. Sensei's Top now spun in response to that, and then down comes another Nazgul for a Temptation of the Ring. More plus counters on the Nazgul as well. So these things are getting pretty big and scary. That one is a 7/8, this can swing in as well as a 6/7, and we still can't block with our commander yet. Only one card in this player's hand though, and he casts it. That is a Call of the Ring, so we might have to make a block here. Now still going in at Oloro with the 7/8, with both of them actually. So that's a nice chunk of damage. Puts another card into exile. He just draws it and discards it straight away. And clears a swamp off the top doing that. So 4 cards in exile over here and 1 over here. We need 2 more to put our commander online. But there's still double mana held up for the Oloro player. There's been talk over the years of whether we should still have commander damage in the game, and games like this is why I think you definitely should. Oloro with double the amount of life gain is... it's not beyond the realms to have hundreds of life by the end of a game, so commander damage is a way to end it. It was always going to be a matter of time. A Toxic Deluge. X is 8, so I'm assuming that everything's going down there. Making Oloro use a lot of that life at least. Should probably float the mana with this. Oh, it's actually not a swamp. I don't have the mana to get this down anyway. So our commander is going down. Bunch of stuff going to get exiled, but it's not our turn, so it won't trigger the commander. And Golem left play, so is tempted by the ring, which means that this is all the way leveled up, but the Grixis player's hand is now empty. Left a Planeswalker in play though, so that's going to stick around longer than we would like. And there is Sheoldred. Nice scary one. We're going to lose even more life to our own commander thanks to Sheoldred. Esper Sentinel really good as well. Does mean we can start swinging in with our commander at least though. So it might just be worth getting that down with haste and turn it in sideways immediately. Omnath back into play again. We managed to slow that down nicely. Untaps 2 lands with Garruk again. So can float the mana at least, even if he has nothing to do with it. We'll get down a Surveil land here, try and look at the top card of the library, which shows us another land. I'm going to be slightly greedy here and throw that in the bin, try and see something nicer, because I don't think we're going to be making use of a Ganjo. Lose 2 life to Sheoldred when we draw into Recruiter of the Guard. Could make use of Recruiter to go for something like Solemn, and we don't have much Flicker shenanigans at the moment, unfortunately. I think we are just going for our commander. And if our opponent wants to block here, he won't lose Sheoldred, but he does have to double block, and therefore lose Esper Sentinel. So I think it's worth doing here. Play a Ganjo as the land for the turn, and then let's swift up Boots onto the commander to protect it from spot removal, but also give it haste here. We'll leave that Garruk alone against my better judgment. If Oloro's going to be the typical control player and start to refill his hand, then we need to all be ganging up on him really. So I think it's just a case of getting Felia down with Flash and maybe start to flicker something next turn. Forgot all about the Senyu, so that will come into play as well. And that can actually enter attacking the Garruk after all. And we'll pretend I did that on purpose. So Garruk gets exiled. When it goes down, we draw a card to our commander. And when we draw a card, we lose a life to the commander. We lose 2 to Sheoldred as well, so we want to see the back of that thing as soon as we can. The graveyard's been exiled anyway, so probably best just getting this down as a land. Although it will be a tap land, unless we want to take even more life, bolting it down. Yeah, just holding up the Felia. Not seeing too much exile yet, but we've got Oloro at 14 commander and down to 18 life. Gwendlyn doesn't have any more creatures, so can't make it a ring bearer, therefore can't draw an additional card with this. There's a Cabal Coffers, so plenty of swamps. Able to make a bunch of mana, probably just has to go for his commander and get the summoning sickness off it. It is only a target player, but I imagine there's combos with this where you just constantly untap it and target every opponent a bunch of times to make them discard their hand. Now, how many cards can Oloro draw into the Sheoldred? Because he's going to gain 4 life every time he draws a card here. Gains 4 life at the beginning of the turn to his commander as well, so that's 8 life gain just out of nowhere. Maybe grab ourselves the Lauren with Recruiter of the Guard so that we can blow this thing up, stem the bleeding. And if we flicker it, that can get rid of Esper Sentinel as well. Yeah, and then if we're swinging in with this next turn, it might mean that we can flicker the Lauren. That might be a good idea. Oloro's at least falling behind on mana. Sheoldred Descent swing in means that he can't block us very easily unless he gets a creature down. We'll just take the damage here. Holds up his 5 mana and passes. 3 cards in hand. A Harmonise, that's the first non-creature spell being cast into Esper Sentinel, so if he's allowed to draw a card here... I don't think he floated that green mana actually, did he? Oh, anyway, he paid the Esper Sentinel tax, thankfully. so it's not even more life being gained. Does lose himself 6 life though to the Sheoldred by drawing 3 cards. So he's got 8 in hand, just wants to make more lands, you would assume. So at the end of the turn, let's get down the Fellier. Looks as though Omnath didn't manage to make a land there. It's pretty unlucky. Not going well for the mono-green player. I think it's best for us to hold on to the Black Blade until we're either desperate for life or we can Alpha Strike. Playing this for 5 mana and knocking an opponent out of the game would be handy. Okay, Path to Exile. We could use on the Sheoldred if we have to, and that's card draw for us as well. I think we definitely want Recruiter of the Guard for Lauren regardless. And that does hit play, so we'll be able to tutor. There's Witch Enchanter as well we could grab, but Lauren is cheaper, so we'll go for that. That also is legendary, so it will trigger the Senyu if we need it to. Let's drop the Lauren straight away. And then I think I'll go after Esper Sentinel here, just so that they've got 1 fewer blockers and we don't have to worry about paying tax into Path or anything like that. So I'll go after the Sentinel, which will draw us a card and lose us 3 life because of the Sheoldred. Sensei's top spins and looks at the top 3. I don't really want to leave our opponent with this thing, but we can probably just... yeah, we can probably end the turn with nothing relevant in hand. We can get down Black Blade if we bolt this down, so I'm going to exile Sheoldred here so that we don't lose as much life. And then if the Esper player scoops in response, then we've got more informed attacks to make, at least more relevant attacks to make. Right, so that successfully exiles Sheoldred. We'll draw 2 cards to Ketramose now. We're still in the main phase, so we might be able to make a land that we don't have to bolt in. Eerie Interlude, that's a shame that we can't hold that up. Unless we make a land and a Sol Ring here. Now the Esper player doing something else. Yeah, there's a Void Rend, so wouldn't have been of much use to him on our commander anyway. But removing Hexproof means that he might be able to do swords or something onto the commander. Alright, a Noxious Gear Hulk. So let's go for the life gain and scry with the Senyu because we're about to be unblocked. Ketramose draws again. I forgot this is legendary as well actually, so many means of getting the bird back into play. A D-Spark isn't the worst. The scry from the bird shows us a Sky Scanner and a Ghostway. I think these are identical. Return them at the beginning of the next end step. Return them at the beginning of the next end step, yeah. Don't think we need Sky Scanner, so let's put that on the bottom. I don't think we really need Ghostway either. So we'll just go for a swing in. I'm trying not to bolt down the land if I don't have to. Turn everything in down the middle, and this will trigger the Fellier. So it'd be nice to be able to tutor with Recruiter of the Guard again, but I'm going to get rid of the Lauren instead, flicker that, and that will draw us a card with the commander again. Alright, Wayfarer's Bauble. I think it's probably wiser to hold up D-Spark. And Senyu comes back into play, attacking. I'll take that in down the middle as well. Just want rid of Oloro at this point. And the question is, how much is this going to interfere with us? Do we just go for D-Spark onto it now? I think we're fine to bolt this down after all if we're not going to draw into any other lands. So D-Spark onto the commander, and that will be us tapped out. Means that we're going to draw another card here. So Ketramose on the stack again. We're the ones with cards in hand, so I dare say that that's where the Grixis player would have aimed his commander's ability. And now, ironically, we get into a land. Go through to the end step, we'll bring back in the Lauren with Fellier's ability. And if Oloro has a board wipe, then he's going to be encouraged to use it here. We'll at least get rid of his Boon Reflection on the way out. And draw a card when doing so, because it goes into exile thanks to Leyline of the Void. And Resto Angel there. Part of a combo, but can also protect our stuff. So yeah, we're pretty much dodging a board wipe, dodging exile on our commander as well, thanks to the Swiftfoot Boots going down. I don't think I ended up putting Sun Titan in here, even though it is a good flicker target, because we can end up exiling our own graveyard with certain things. But maybe it's worth an include. Because we got rid of the creature, this can't make a creature the Ring Bearer again. So once again, it does not draw an additional card. Born Upon a Wind is just draw a card here. Sensei's Top spins again. Ultimately our opponents want to interfere with us before we untap really. I imagine they can afford their commander easily enough, they've got the colours for it. It's noteworthy actually, if we can get through to Oloro next turn, with the swamp that we've drawn into, Blackblade Reforged equipped onto our commander, I think we've got exactly enough to take him out to commander damage. Anyway, Gwendlyn back into play again, 1 card in hand for our opponent, and then drops Bilbo's Ring back down to 0 cards in hand. But if he'll have an opponent to attack with, then he'll be able to draw off this at least. So Oloro only gaining 2 life as opposed to the 4 off the reflection. Consecrated Sphinx we're going to have to be careful with. Yeah, at least they're tapped out, so we should be able to knock them out before that becomes too much of an issue, especially with us drawing cards. Sphinx does trigger on the draw step as well, of course. And there's a Lotus Cobra. We'll see if Omnath has managed to get into any lands in all this time. This is Pilgrimage, we'll get him into lands. Spell Mastery doesn't help because he doesn't have a graveyard. Adds a mana with the Lotus Cobra, but our opponent's tapped out now. He will keep hold of the mana with his 2/2 Omnath, plays a land for turn in the form of the Forest, so up to 2, and plays himself a Lightning Greaves, likely going on to his commander. Now I'm hoping that Oloro doesn't scoop when he sees the writing on the wall here, because I would like the life gain from Ketramose being a lot bigger with the sword in hand, but we'll see what happens. Draws again with the Sphinx. We get into Baleful Mastery, which is a means of exile, as is everything in this list. Yeah, we've got exactly enough with 21, and our commander does have Menace, so we should be able to get through with the Reforged. Equips for 3 mana, making it a 13/13, and then I think we can swing in quite aggressively here. I forgot to do the scry on Senyu actually. I'm trying to swing in before Oloro scoops on us. Let's go 3/3 into the right. And we'll take, Senyu into the left. Felia can flicker the Recruiter of the Guard this time. I'm not sure what I'm going after, but we'll do that anyway. Draw a card when it's flickered to the dog. Draws us a card, loses us a life. Consecrated Sphinx draws 2. And so goes down to 21 points. We go up to 30 again, which is a much healthier life total. That's good. Glad he took it. So now it's just a case of holding up Eerie Interlude and Resto Angel, really. Maybe do we go Baleful Mastery actually? Because I really just don't want to be discarding to this, and it gives him 1 less creature to, like I keep saying, it's relevant having a creature in play with this and with Bilbo's Ring. So yeah, let's go for that. We'll give him a card draw, doing it for 2 mana. Because something got exiled, we draw again into a Tainted Field. So yeah, just holding up Eerie Interlude here. Felia brings back Recruiter of the Guard. So we get to tutor for something with toughness 2 or less. And let's just make it the Skyclave Apparition to give our opponents an even bigger headache. Trade that out for the Claim Jumper I'll discard to hand size, because we've managed to make lands quite consistently this game. Our opponent managed to draw into a Night's Whisper, so he's starting to get cards in his hand. Witch King, Bringer of Ruin. When it attacks, the defending player sacrifices a creature with the least power. They don't have haste available at the moment, thankfully. Won't be the end of the world if we have to sack Recruiter of the Guard anyway. Throws Bilbo's Ring onto there for the full 4 mana. So we'll see how much damage Omnath can do here. Gonna have 6 cards in hand and now has a decent amount of mana for the first time all game. Courser of Crufix is a means of some incremental life gain. Can play lands off the top with it. And just so happens to have a basic forest on top. So it gains a life and makes a mana with the Cobra. Sakura Tribelder can shuffle the library and get a land into play. So decides to shuffle the land away. And shows us instead a Praetor's Council, which only gives him a maximum hand size, or a no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Dare say he doesn't care about that. And then the 2/2 swings into the left. He can float a bunch of mana in response. Oh, he just does it straight away, so now a 6/6. And was going to be attacking in over here anyway. So that takes him down to 28. We're going to have to figure out if we can get rid of him this turn. I doubt we can. Yeah, because I was just thinking we could go Noxious Gearhulk to blow up the Demon, or the Wraith. It looks as though we're going to have to spread some damage around a little bit again. I'll keep hold of the Eerie Interlude, ready for a board wipe. And there's another Restoration Angel, Glorious Protector. Keeps the thing in exile until it leaves play. So it is different than Restoration Angel. Play a land is fine. Buffs our commander. And I think I want to flick a Lauren to blow up the Lightning Greaves. So let's go through to attack straight away. Again, I've forgotten about the Senyu. I'm losing out on life with that. Felia to the right, Senyu to the right, Ketramose to the left with a 14/14 menace. And then Felia can go after Lauren to flicker it. Draws us a card into Anguished Unmaking, isn't the worst. And gets this player down to 14, so one more hit from the commander will be good to get rid of that player. I want to try and not abuse Skyclave Apparition too much because it will give this player a lot of blockers and we want to be getting through commander damage if we can. So getting Noxious Gearhulk into play should be fine. We're back up to our starting life total again, by the way. So that can get rid of the Lotus Cobra. Argument to be made for the Courser of Crufix, but we can always flicker stuff anyway and blow other things up. So that's destroyed and exiled with the Leyline of the Void, drawing us again. Alright, and a Cloud Shift. Yeah, do we just go Cloud Shift now? We've got Eerie Interlude held up. We'll still have Resto Angel, Eerie Interlude. Yeah, let's just do it here. So Cloud Shift exiles it and brings it back in straight away, triggering its ETB. And our commander for another card draw. Let's get rid of the Demon this time. Or the Wraith, I keep calling it a Demon. And that way it continues to switch this off. Draw 2 cards thanks to the Wraith being thrown into exile as well. And we get into another land we can make next turn. And a Helpful Hunter. So I think we're fine to just pass the turn with our interaction held up there. Felia brings back Lauren to blow up that Lightning Greaves. So if we're worried about Omnath, we'll probably just throw the Anguished Unmaking onto that. Draw again when the Greaves goes down. Into Fortune, Loyal Steed is another means of flickering like Felia. I don't think we're going to be making use of that, so get rid of our ramp. And Fortune's going to be too slow without haste, so we'll get rid of that. Our opponent's valiantly playing it out, even though it is a bit of a slog for them, I'm sure. Just gets Gwendlyn into play again. Equips Bilbo's Ring for 4 mana. Problem is, the more players you knock out, the more you have to start worrying about how many cards each individual has in exile. I think, yeah, there's plenty in exile for both players now. Which should be the case the further the game goes on. Now, do we have to go Eerie Interlude to get rid of Omnath? I don't think so. If there's any kind of fight or anything to worry about, then we should be able to skirt around it. I want to be reactionary as opposed to proactive in getting rid of Omnath. Selvala will not have haste, but that's going to make a hell of a lot of mana. Might have to eat a Noxious Gearhulk or 3. Acidic Slime is on top, and that could get rid of our artifact creature. We see Ant Queen ready to make a bunch of bodies, so maybe throwing the sword onto this for 7 mana might be relevant after all. Or we could just flash in Restoration Angel regardless, because that would be a decent flyer to start swinging in with. There's no reaches over here. It's noteworthy that Glorious Protector could put this into exile, and then this could enter play from exile even though we didn't use its ability. That could be something to do. But anyway, we're just going for Resto Angel onto the Gearhulk, I think. The Grixis player's thinking of something, so he might be able to counter here, or use spot removal before that comes down. You'd see what the target is for this before you wanted to use your spot removal. Anyway, decides to let it down, so flicker the Gearhulk. And I think I'll go after Omnath so our opponent can't float a bunch of mana on us. Makes an insect token in response to the death of his commander, and he can make 2 more of those as it stands now. Can't remember if he drew into that Beastmaster Ascension now, so it might be worth holding up the Anguished Unmaking so that we can blow up the Ascension, just in case he can overrun us. Pass through to our turn. Ephemera, another means of abusing Noxious Gearhulk, so I think we're fine to shock down the Godless Shrine. I will remember the Senyu this time. Draw a card, gain 2 life, lose a life, and scry 2. Draws us into Abdel, which is part of a good few combos, but not going to have to use that, thankfully. In fact, we do have it available because we've got Ephemera, Abdul, and the Restoration Angel, so that would be infinite flickers, ETBs, leave the battlefield triggers, infinite tokens as well, but it's Magic Online and we're not really interested in doing that, so let's go for a land on top, and then another round is a fun one, so I'll leave that on top as well. Go through to combat, 15-15 finishes off the Grixis player, we hope. 5-5 pup to the right, and the angel to the right as well. Felia we've got a hell of a lot of use out of. We'll flicker the Noxious Gearhulk again, drawing a card with our commander. So get into another round, which is a sorcery, so this is only going to come in at the end of the turn, meaning that we can't target with the another round, which is a shame. And now Gwendlyn just seems to be timing out on us, unfortunately, so hopefully decides to pass priority soon. If we've got overrun to worry about, it might be that this life gain is relevant as well. Alright, just decides to time out, unfortunately, so we don't deal damage over there. Senyu still triggers, because it's unblocked, so that comes in, attacking our opponents, the only legal place that it can attack. And now damage is dealt, we don't gain the life from our commander because the opponent's gone. And we've got this player down to 12, so I think, yeah, just throwing the Black Blade onto a flyer now is fine. So we'll throw it on Restoration Angel, and we'll just pass the turn at that. I think if we need to pull shenanigans with Flicker, then we can do. Felia brings in the Noxious Gearhulk at the end of the turn, so I'll blow up the Ant Queen and gain a bit more life. Shouldn't be too much power in play for Selvala to be that relevant. Decides not to make any insects on the way out, so the Ant Queen is exiled and Ketramose draws again. We know what we're drawing into, of course. So let's get rid of, I think, Abdel. We're not going to be doing the combo now anyway. Another round is probably going to be too slow for us. Fierce Empath is on top to tutor for a big creature. Can't remember if I pointed it out now, but he didn't make any insects on the way out there. Acidic Slime can blow up the Noxious Gearhulk, like I said. So if they target that, then I will go for the Ephemerate here, just to really drive my opponent insane. Black Blade Reforged. The only problem with equipping it like I did, I was trying to save mana for next turn, but we are telegraphing what we're about to do. So yeah, he does go for Black Blade Reforged because he knows that Resto Angel is going to be swinging in for lethal next turn. We have Beast Within as well anyway. So let's go Ephemerate onto the Gearhulk. We can't protect our Black Blade, unfortunately, but Gearhulk can now go after Selvala before it sees anything too huge. And if we can get enough blockers out of the way because he didn't make any insects, then we might just be able to get through for lethal regardless. So Beast Within will fizzle because it doesn't have a legal target anymore. Black Blade Reforged goes down and our opponent quits anyway. We were drawing into some lands. Yeah, so pretty much we're getting into everything we wanted throughout the entire game, really. I suppose if you control the board enough and draw into enough cards, then your opponents are going to really struggle. They didn't really get into that many cards themselves. As soon as we got rid of Oloro, it was just a case of controlling the other two players and keeping them off their card draw and permanents in play as best we could. But yeah, very happy with Ketramose. It's about as good as I thought it would be, so always happy to not be disappointed by a new commander. Hopefully you all enjoyed that one as well. Look forward to other commanders from the new Wacky Races set, Ether Drift, whatever it's called. And I will see you all in the next one, I hope. Massive thank you to the patrons as always. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.